All right, let's call to order the special board meeting of USD 420. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 7-0. New business, just before I turn it over to Troy, I just thought this was interesting. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Dr. Britton Hart, used to be Osage City alumni. The first thing I saw on social media today was thank you. That was his picture, basically saying thank you. So just to kind of set the theme for tonight, I think, thank you to the custodian staff that cleaned the building. Thank you to the admin that worked so hard this last week. Thank you to the teachers for what you're about to go through, and thank you to the food service counselors, everybody else that's already been working hard. So I just thought that was coming from an alumni, being kind of the first thing I saw this morning, kind of a good end to the week. So,
Great.
Okay, I want to reiterate that Dan and the guys just did a tremendous job. Dan Fager and the guys just did a really good job tonight or this weekend
A little bit, we can.
in disinfecting the whole the school, deep cleaning. That was what they were tasked to do this week, is deep clean the entire school, and they did a tremendously good job with that. Contacted Tammy Brab early on in this week and said we need to get a waiver going, and she did. She got that going. We are completely organized for delivering food service next week. Pulled the admin into several different meetings this week off their spring break, and I approved it, and I just appreciate them doing that. I can't speak highly enough for Kylie and Andy. They've worked countless hours this week. Not only this, but to get ready for continuous learning. So I can't speak highly enough for them and the job that they've done this week. Lisa with delivering meds and making sure kids had those over. They're going to run. Some of these kids are going to run out, so Lisa Creetal did a great job with that too. So with the school closure, the executive order from Governor Kelly this week, we need a waiver approved for the 1,116 hours because we're going to be missing those hours. That waiver is contingent on a couple of things, that we pay our hourly workers and that we have a continuous learning plan that we will be producing next week, and we've started a lot with that already. This waiver, which I have a copy of, I got it today, is due back on April 8th. We will start working on that, and I'm hoping to have that filled out and ready for approval next Friday. It's not due to be approved until April 8th. However, that is our board meeting for next month, and I would really like to get it approved prior to that. We could do it on the 8th, but then I'd have to submit it right after the meeting. I want it submitted prior to that. So I'd like to do that, and I'm going to work really hard to make sure that happens. So next week, schools should be putting plans into place based on the KSDE Continuous Learning Task Force. And I don't know if you have a lot of information on the task force, but a lot of teachers were pulled together across the state to put this plan together. It's a 68-page document to help our teachers get ready for the next 8 weeks. And the teachers involved with that and administrators did, in my opinion, and have done an excellent job. Commissioner Randy Watson has provided tremendous leadership to the whole state. I'm really proud of the work that has been done. These plans need to go into place March 30th. So we should be rolling out continuous education to our kids on March 30th. That can be done in a couple, 2 or 3 different ways, mostly online, maybe some face-to-face, maybe some packet work. You know, we've done some work trying to figure out who has internet service and who doesn't. The vast majority of our kids do have internet service, so it's going to make it more feasible for us. Those that don't, we will figure out if we can help them, or if not, provide a different avenue for those kids. So those are the situations that we're dealing with.
Troy, can I ask you a question on that?
Absolutely.
That survey came out there to the parents there, what was it, the day before yesterday? And like in our household, both Robin and I got it, and we both responded to it. And do you get an accurate reading off that? We've got one kid.
Yeah, I think
two
so.
responses.
What we were looking for was just there were two questions on that. Do you have internet? If you do, fine. If you do not, let us know who you are. So as long as you have internet, that won't hurt us on that survey. We're not really looking for actually who has it, we're looking who doesn't have it. And once we get those names, then we're going to try to do what we can, reach out to some providers to see if they can help us. If they can't help us, we'll work out something else as far as either packet work or whatever we can do to make it happen. But yeah, that's a good question. That survey went out, I think, text, and I think that was primarily just text that went out.
So when this all starts, is there a way to keep track of making sure who's getting it, who's not? I mean, how you get, is there, I'm assuming on the Chromebooks, it's gonna tell you who's logged in. On the packets,
Right.
How do we keep track of who's not? If there's somebody not in the loop?
They will have to, well, we'll continue to communicate with parents.
So phone
But we'll
calls
have
and-
packets that go out and have to come back.
Okay.
And so there's going to be continuous communication through teachers on that. One of the things you can see, we're set up differently that we have to abide by. We have to have no more than 10 people in a group, and that's including a teacher. So we would want to get parental approval if we did have kids come into the building, but I think it's our goal primarily not to have kids come into the building. And looking through this superintendent's surveys and listservs, that's 90% of the districts are trying to keep students out of the buildings if they can. But there is an opportunity to do that if that plays into it. So we need to have some flexibility going into the planning so that, we may have teachers that need to do that. We've got to be cognizant of IEPs and different things like that. So I hate to just hard line, we're not doing that because we may end up needing to do that in some situations, but we need to communicate that with parents as well. We're working on a plan, and I put out some information today, or we put out some information as an administrative team, and Kylie helped as well, along with Andy, about the next week and some of those things that are going to be happening. I did not put a specific plan yet in how we were going to get belongings back to kids and picking up Chromebooks and whatever else that goes along with that. We have a plan in place, but it's going to be lengthy and it's going to come from the buildings themselves. The plan, as far as we can't have more than 10 people in here at a time to pick things up, so it's going to have to be coordinated, and there's quite a bit of instruction. So we're going to put that out early next week. But we do have an idea in each building how that's going to happen. We worked on that last couple days. So we'll be handing out the Chromebooks to go home, picking up personal belongings. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was the waiver for food service, and that will begin Monday for any students ages 1 through the age of 18. That starts on Monday the 23rd. We will have a pickup for breakfast and lunch for the week, starting at between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. And for those people that can't make that work, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Either they can pick up either out here at the elementary entrance, or they can pick up at Dogwood Glen if it makes. We're going to see how that works and if they need that. Parents need that convenience, and then we'll play into that.
So if a parent absolutely couldn't make one of those times, can they assign somebody to pick it up for them?
by rule, we're supposed to have a kid, one of our students there. We're gonna try to hold that. I mean, if a student would come up by themselves with somebody else, we could give it to them. But they're supposed to be one of our students there. Now, they could pick up for their siblings or whatnot. We're gonna exercise flexibility in that, so people will get what they need.
Is additional help needed for covering
That's what I was just gonna
these
ask.
times?
We don't need, I don't think we need volunteers for that just yet.
Okay.
We've had a lot of teachers volunteer, we've had other people volunteer, and I appreciate that greatly, but I'm afraid if we get too many volunteers, we won't be able to manage it, and we're trying to keep it to a reasonable amount of people there. So we've got a plan in place for doing that. Tammy's done a great job of orchestrating that, and she's reached out to some other districts too, and saw how they were doing some things. And fortunately for us, it was fortunate in some ways and not so much in others, but for the most part, it was a really nice thing that we were on spring break this week to be able to get this planning done without losing another week. Most of the schools lost 2 weeks, and we lost 1. So parents and students should not expect education to continue this next week. It's a 5-day planning session, basically, to get organized with this continuous learning program. So parents should not expect anything to be started this week. We're getting valuables, Chromebooks back to them. The teachers are going to have 5 days. They will be coming in. Most of them will come in Monday morning for a Zoom. If they can't come in, some may not be able to come in. We've asked them to join us on Zoom from home. So there's some things there going on.
Is 5 days enough time for them to get prepared? I mean, usually in the program, is that enough time for them to get prepared?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe they can get a start, and it's going to be an evolution. They're not going to have the whole year ready to go by any means, but I think even if it's a slow rollout, they'll have time. And one thing I did want to say also is I've appreciated that Andy put together a really good leadership team. We're calling it our tech leaders. And I want to put a shout out to those teachers that have volunteered to help with that. So not only do we have Andy, Kylie, Lori as tech leaders in our buildings, but we also have a group of, Andy, can you tell me how many are on that? I can't.
I think it was like 14 or so.
There's like 14. We have some excellent teachers when it comes to technology, and they're going to share their knowledge with other teachers and help distribute the information. So we're really proud of that. I'm proud of Andy and the job he's done putting that together. They've also given up some time this week through 2 or 3 meetings via Zoom. Zoom has proven to be an excellent tool. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. Some of you probably use it. But it's proven to be an excellent tool, and it's going to continue to be an excellent tool as we work through delivering an education to our kids, because I think it's free to us moving forward. So really proud of that. There's two resolutions we need to pass tonight. One of them is that we need to continue to pay our hourly people. That's part of the waiver. We really have no choice on that, and I wouldn't want to change that personally anyway. Those people need to be paid. So that's one motion. The other motion is a motion to suspend we have 26 graduation credit requirement, and the state is suggesting that districts can lower that this year to the state required 21 required graduation requirements. There's a couple of reasons for that. With this we don't want any kids getting caught in this hitch with, and one example would be kids going to tech school. They may not be able to finish those classes potentially. So they're advising us, even though we're going to continue education and we want our kids to get the 26, there may be some situations where kids get caught up in this problem, and we don't want that to hang them up on graduating. So that is the reason that we would ask that we pass that resolution tonight.
So the intent is that the seniors would still complete as through the online learning
Right.
where,
We want,
where applicable.
we want everybody to get the credits that they, but you may have a senior that, if they're a tech student, they might get caught up in this deal and not be able to get that done, and we don't want to see any kids not graduate.
But by making it 21, we'll cover that.
We would be covered.
Okay.
They still, there's no getting around the required 21 state required credits. If they don't get those, they don't graduate. But we're gonna do everything possible to help those kids do that.
What has been the recommendation as far as like for graduation? Are we gonna do that in like
Well,
May?
we don't have any guidance on that. All I know is the executive order closes us down to groups of more than 10 until the end of May, May 29th. So, you know,
Which brings me to my next question about summer school, summer rec, summer weights.
we
So
would
that'll be in
anticipate that we would be able to finish those or complete those things, but we don't know that because this thing could go longer. I mean, I've heard numbers like 18 months. We hope that doesn't happen.
Well, when the governor spoke, she said till August. That's why I asked when it, but you just said it's May 29th.
The executive order, and I have that right here, it goes, it is completed until May 29th.
Okay.
I mean, it could, like I
So they can
said,
change that anytime.
it could change anytime, and we have no way of knowing if that's gonna happen until that does happen.
Any questions on either of the resolutions before I read that page?
Read it loudly.
All right, I would move to approve the following resolution of the board regarding wage payments during emergency school closings. Whereas the board is authorized to expend funds of Osage City USD 420 for purposes necessary in the conduct of the public schools as determined by the board. Whereas the board acknowledges that during an emergency closing, most district employees are instructed not to report to work. Whereas the board finds that a need exists to address wage payments for employees who are idled resulting from the order by the Superintendent Board, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly, Osage County Health Department in conjunction with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and the Kansas State Department of Education, resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Whereas the board determines that employees who are instructed not to report to work may suffer a loss of pay if the district or its attendance centers are closed. Whereas the Kansas legislature has declared in House substitute for Senate Bill 142 its intent that any school district applying for a waiver of the mandatory term under KSA 72-3117 and amendments thereto shall continue to pay all current hourly employees during times of closure. And whereas the board concludes that continuing wage payments to all regular employees, both salaried and hourly, who suffer a loss in pay due to an emergency closing services the public purposes of maintaining morale, reducing turnover, and ensuring continuity of district staffing when schools reopen. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Osage City Unified School District 420 authorizes continued wage payments to all regular employees, including regular salaried and hourly employees, and employees under current contract with the board who are instructed not to report to work on days they would otherwise be required to be working during emergency closing. The authority granted by this resolution to continue wage payments to idle employees is effective for the period of March 20th, 2020 through June 30th, 2020, unless the board takes action to authorize payment during a longer duration. This is adopted the 20th day of March 2020 by the USD 420 Board of Education.
A second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 7-0. On the second resolution, resolution for suspending board policy IHF graduation requirements. Be it resolved that all credit requirements above and beyond those minimum required credits set by the Kansas State Department of Education, which are contained in Board of Education Policy IHF adopted April 07, be suspended by the be suspended for the graduating class of 2020. Students must meet all standards set out in KAR 91-31-35 unless otherwise modified by the Kansas State Board of Education or the Kansas State Department of Education to qualify for graduation in May 2020.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Any other questions?
I do want one other thing. Is this gonna affect any of the other classes that are in high school for their numbers when we're looking at the 26 versus 21?
I
Is that
don't
something we're gonna have to
anticipate-
look at for 2 or 3 years?
No, I don't
or something?
anticipate that. They should be fine. If that does happen, we'll bring it back to you, but I don't see that as a problem at all for the question. I think it's gonna catch this senior group only.
We need to sign those.
We will, but I figured we could go all to Patty and use your own pen and not pass it around. Anybody else have a question for Troy, or? I would move we adjourn.
Second. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate you giving up Friday.
thanks for all your work you've been doing. My goodness.
It's been different.
I can,
Yes.
I'm sure.
Crazy, crazy.